41 quotes from Adam Smith. Science is the great antidote to the poison of enthusiasm and superstition. The first thing you have to know is yourself. A man who knows himself can step outside himself and watch his own reactions, like an observer. Never complain of that, of which it is at all times in your power to rid yourself. Mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. No society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which by far the greater part of the numbers are poor and miserable. Virtue is more to be feared than vice, because its excesses are not subject to the regulation of conscience. Civil government, so far as it is instituted for the security of property, is in reality instituted for the defense of the rich against the poor, or of those who have some property against those who have none at all. Science is the great antidote to the poison of enthusiasm and superstition. The first thing you have to know is yourself. A man who knows himself can step outside himself and watch his own reactions like an observer. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own self-interest. We address ourselves not to their humanity but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages. People of the same trade seldom meet together, even for merriment and diversion, but the conversation ends in a conspiracy against the public, or in some contrivance to raise prices. It is not very unreasonable that the rich should contribute to the public expense, not only in proportion to their revenue, but something more than in that proportion. Virtue is more to be feared than vice, because its excesses are not subject to the regulation of conscience. Individual ambition serves the common good. Wherever there is great property, there is great inequality. All for ourselves, and nothing for other people, seems, in every age of the world, to have been the vile maxim of the masters of mankind. Every man lives by exchanging. Man is an animal that makes bargains, no other animal does this. No dog exchanges bones with another. Problems worthy of attacks prove their worth by hitting back. The learned ignore the evidence of their senses to preserve the coherence of the ideas of their imagination. What is prudence in the conduct of every private family can scarce be folly in that of a great kingdom. The subjects of every state ought to contribute towards the support of the government, as nearly as possible, in proportion to their respective abilities. Man naturally desires, not only to be loved, but to be lovely. There is no art which one government sooner learns of another than that of draining money from the pockets of the people. We are but one of the multitude, in no respect better than any other in it. There is a great deal of ruin in a nation. Consumption is the sole end and purpose of all production. Hatred and anger are the greatest poison to the happiness of a good mind. Virtue is excellence, something uncommonly great and beautiful, which rises far above what is vulgar and ordinary. The furious behavior of an angry man is more likely to exasperate us against himself than against his enemies. The profligacy of a man of fashion is looked upon with much less contempt and aversion than that of a man of meaner condition. A nation is not made wealthy by the childish accumulation of shiny metals, but it enriched by the economic prosperity of its people. The great secret of education is to direct vanity to proper objects. The division of labor, however, so far as it can be introduced, occasions, in every art, a proportionable increase of the productive powers of labor. As soon as the land of any country has all become private property, the landlords, like all other men, love to reap what they never sowed, and demand a rent even for its natural produce. To superficial minds, the vices of the great seem at all times agreeable. In the common degree of the moral, there is no virtue. Virtue is excellence. The desire of being believed, the desire of persuading, of leading, and directing other people, seems to be one of the strongest of all our natural desires. The wages of labor are the encouragement of industry, which, like every other human quality, improves in proportion to the encouragement it receives. When our passive feelings are almost always so sordid and so selfish, how comes it that our active principles should often be so generous and so noble? It was not by gold or by silver, but by labor, that all the wealth of the world was originally purchased.